The Mastering Local Marketing podcast helps local small business owners like you understand what it takes to successfully market your business and drive new customers through your doors. We provide actionable insights, interview leading experts and business owners in various industries, as well as provide tips and tricks we've uncovered over the last 25 years in the field. Whether you're starting your business or you've been at it for decades, let us provide you with the education and resources you need to grow your customer base. It's time to start mastering your local marketing. Here's your host, Matt Hansen.
Mastering Local Marketing swag is on its way. This is the Mastering Local Marketing podcast. If you're in business locally, you need to listen to this show anywhere in the world. Thanks a lot to our people in Australia.
Yeah,
that have found us.
They have found us all over the world, so we must be saying something good.
Well, I think the principles are pretty much the same wherever you go. About if you have a business, you should consider what your marketing plan is, and you should try to do it as cheaply as possible and get the most effectiveness out of the money that you spend, and that's what we try to do. He's Matt Hansen. He's a professor here in Hammond, Indiana. That's where we record. I'm Jim Diedlow. I'm Jed of Jed TV and WJOB. We sell a lot of advertising to a lot of people, and so I come from basically the supply side, and then Matt buys a lot of social media advertising for people, right?
I do. I'm constantly out there. I've got a bunch of campaigns I need to set up, getting ready for July to start. So, yeah.
And if you listen later and far away, this is being recorded in late June of 2025 on the campus of Purdue Northwest. But as you buy these campaigns for people and place, ads and so forth, they eventually have to go back and they have to assess that if what you're doing and what their entire social media strategy, is it working? We've talked a lot about instituting email, putting what kind of posts, how often to post, all that kind of stuff. But eventually you got to do an audit. How does that work?
Yeah, the audit comes up a lot. And I was sitting yesterday having lunch with one of our favorite people, Katie. And we were talking about just in general what small businesses start to think of when they think of marketing. And the first thing that they always go back to is, I need help with my social media. And we could talk about both the owned and the paid side of it, but in reality, the first thing that people go to is social media when we start talking about marketing. So I thought today we should probably go back and look at what a social media audit is and really how to a quick checklist of things you should go back and do. So an audit is really just a way for you to understand, what are our goals? Are we accomplishing those goals? Let's see what's out there that, are we putting information out there that is relevant to those goals? What is the content that we're putting out there? And then also, what is the audience that we're getting back, right? Are they engaged in all those types of things? So that's what we're going to talk about today, is really kind of a very easy way to do an audit of your social media and to understand what are the steps in that. And then just take 10, 15, 20 minutes and go through and do that to your Instagram account or your Facebook account or TikTok, whatever you're wanting to go out there and do.
In this episode, you'll learn how to review your profiles, posts, hashtags, engagement, and even your followers to make sure that everything aligns with your business goals. Whether you're DIYing your marketing or managing a team, an audit will give you clarity and direction in just a few steps.
Right.
And don't waste time guessing all this stuff. Get your social presence on track with a proven system that actually drives results. You had lunch yesterday. What's that mean?
It meant I was hungry. But no, I sat down with Katie and we were just kind of talking about the small businesses that she's dealing with on a regular basis. And I'm putting my ear to the ground to kind of listen and understand what is resonating with everyone out there. So again, that's why we wanted to talk about the audit today. But first steps first when it comes to that. I don't think people sit down before they start to do their social media, right? They don't sit there and go, all right, let me understand my target audience. What's the objective that why I'm using social media? What's my strategy? And then picking the technology. We've mentioned the post system in the past. So what most people do is they go out and they pick a technology, or they own all of the social media accounts that they possibly can, and they try to keep up with all of it. And really what they're doing is they're hurting themselves more than they're helping themselves. So what we're saying here is you need to clarify what is the goal that you are trying to accomplish with this. So, for us on Instagram, we post small snippets of the podcast so that people can see what's coming up, right? So what is the latest episode? Here's a few snippets from that. So that's the way that we use that. We've used YouTube for full episodes, and that's just kind of how those were the objectives that we had for what we were doing. Now, mind you, I realize that we're talking about small businesses. You had a painter in here earlier, and from a painting perspective, the question that I have all the time when we do painting is, the first question is, how much is this going to cost? But it really should be a variety of other things. So it's educational. One of my close friends is a painter, and he has taught me so much about technique and all the other things that go into it. So, could you use a certain platform to teach people about what is good painting, what is bad painting, right? So our house, I found out that we had really bad drywallers when our house was built, because they literally caulked all the seams and they cracked, and when they came back to fix it a year later, they caulked it again, and of course it's cracked again. So it's little snippets like that show the differences between companies, but you can utilize your social media and the content that you put out there to show what are the differences between a good painter and a bad painter, a good drywaller and a bad drywaller. So that's what I mean by clarifying what you're actually trying to accomplish before you go out there and put it out there.
So one of the things that you have, and I've used it here with our marketing team, just so you guys know, we built this rapidly expanding sports network, and then we didn't take marketing along with it. We're just like, all right, let's just build it, whatever we get. And luckily, we've been able to get just enough money basically to pay for it. And now we're trying to monetize it. And I often reference the discussions in this. And one is that you always say this, just do one thing. Mm-hmm. And we have narrowed down to a Facebook page, and now I think it's 40,000 likes for the sports. And part of that was just facing, forget X for now, or put a little bit, but this is where we're going. We're going Facebook. Now this podcast network, Adriana's podcast network that we are on, she's like, I want to take it to YouTube. I don't want to run it through Jet TV, and I want to run it through YouTube. I think that's the right call. I'm like, okay. You and Semino and the rest of the young people here that run that, they said, all right, we're going to choose one. We're choosing that. That mentality is so hard to get across to people.
It is. Everyone wants to do everything. They think if I'm not everywhere, people aren't going to see me. But again, you've got to do one thing well. And honestly, I don't see a lot of people doing everything well. There's just not enough time in the day.
Unless you're massive.
Unless you have a huge team, right? So, I look at a lot of the clients that I deal with have one-person marketing teams, and they have decent-sized budgets, right? We're probably talking to people out there today that have small budgets, if budgets at all, and they don't have teams that can go and do all this. So now you're trying to be on YouTube and X and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest, and you can't be everywhere, right? It's like going home and trying to do a million things when you have a million other things that are going on in your life. You just can't do it. So pick one, have that goal. Again, what I'm trying to do. So you have the goal with Facebook, right? And I'll be honest, with the state baseball state finals that were going on last week, that's where I got my information, right? I wanted to see how the local teams did. So, find one that works and stick with it. The other thing too, as we kind of go through an audit, is really understanding that you've got a description that you put in there and you have call to actions, right? So what are those links? So where do you want people to go? So if somebody visits our Instagram profile for this podcast, you'll see it drives them straight over to listen to all the different podcasts, right? Great. Absolutely great. That's what we're trying to do right now. But is there a certain promotion that you're out there trying to get out there right now. Make sure that URL is changing based on what you're trying to do. So if you have let's say you have a social profile that you're putting out there a different offer every single month, make sure that changes every single month, because I cannot tell you how many audits I've done with customers and I say, hey, by the way, your link is broken. And they're sending it to a broken link, right? So it's like, oh, I totally forgot to change that. You have to continually look at this stuff and make sure that if you're going to use it and you're going to send it for certain pages, make sure those pages are still working.
And so step one, clarify your goals. What are your KPIs? What are your needs? That kind of stuff. Step two, we just talked about. Make sure that your links and your profiles are all complete. Now we get to the heart of the audit. And the heart of the audit is looking at your content and when you're doing it, frequency, your timing, your branding, all that kind of stuff. Step three is really where you should spend a decent amount of time.
Right. Yeah, and we see this quite common, right? So somebody will post for 2 weeks straight, I'm going to do this, and then it falls off. I was on an account yesterday, and it went all the way to 2000 consistent. COVID hit, it jumps to 2022, right? And it's just like, what happened? I mean, if anything, you had a large amount of time to put more content out there at that point. So we see it a lot. People get really excited. I've learned something. I want to go out there and put out content. And they start posting and putting all this stuff out there, but then they forget about it, right? They get sidetracked. I had another conversation yesterday with another company where they said, the problem isn't putting content out there. It's the fact that I put content out there, then I get busy and I forget about it. Right? And when you do that, your followers start to go, well, there's not consistent content on here. I'm not gonna look at it, right? So develop kind of a frequency of how often you want to do it. Me personally, I like to post 2 things at once and then come back, a day or 2 later. But that's just me, because I want to put it out there. I want to give you time to see it. There are some people that will say go out there and post 20, 30 times a day. I don't have time for that, right? I don't have interns behind me that can literally run that. And honestly, I don't see the value in posting 20 times a day. I'm not some celebrity or anything like that. So that's perfectly fine, but have that cadence, have that understanding that I'm going to post 4 times a week or 5 times a week, and these are the days, and set it in your phone or set it in your calendar, and it reminds you every morning. You're having your coffee in the morning, you're like, okay, I've got to put something out there.
And that would be the heart of the audit, if there is one. But you got several steps, and the next one, maybe not as large as that one, but you got to do an audit of your captions, and you got to match the goals and make sure all that comes up. How do you do that?
Yeah, so you get going on things, right? You start out, and you this is what we're going to do, but 3 months down the line, you start to sway away from where you were originally heading. So keep yourself in a straight line. If my goal is to do this, don't get excited over that shiny object syndrome where you see something somewhere else and you're like, oh, I'm going to go that direction. And then you come back and then your followers don't really know where you're going with things at this point. And you've changed your strategy, and then you've gone back to your old strategy. And it's just one of those things where people want consistency. They want to know who you are. They don't want to say, all right, I'm talking to Matt today, and I know how Matt is. And then tomorrow I'm giving you horrible advice about marketing. People will look at me like I'm crazy. Like, yesterday you're giving really good advice. Tomorrow you're giving horrible advice. That's what we get when we start to stray, right? So it's a different message, and then we come back, and just don't do that, right? You have your goals in mind. Stick with them. Don't look at what everybody else is doing. Stick with why you are doing what you were doing.
Well, in all of this so far, we've looked at what you're doing as the marketers, a small and medium-sized business, or head of a marketing department, or your own marketing for your small business. we kind of do typically this isn't necessarily for the large business that has 60-person marketing team. You're maybe 15 to 20 and below. Okay. But one of the things that you have to do, we've concentrated on that part. You got to go and flip the other side. You got to look at who your audience is. And how do you determine if it's basically what you want or if it's the quality audience?
So let me ask you, let me flip it on you. So you've got these followers that are following you on Facebook. Have you ever done a deep dive into understanding who they are?
It's odd that you said that, because in my inbox last night is the Facebook analysis that Peter Krakowski's standing out there. He wanted to know. We just went through a very successful athletic season where we, once again, could not keep up because of the business. So we didn't even ever look at who's making these numbers larger and who's watching these. And I think he said we had like 2 million impressions in like a very short period of time, which is a lot for us.
Right.
And so I have not done that.
Right.
I haven't even looked at it because I'm doing 6 podcasts today, and I haven't. I'm like every other person that we're talking to, and that I get busy and then I don't do what I'm supposed to do. Okay. They want me to look at the numbers and I haven't done it. I got to believe that there's a lot of managers right now, the owners, that are shaking their heads. Oh yeah, they tried to show it to me, but I got other things to do. Yeah. Somehow you got to cut through that noise.
So social will give you, like, these platforms will tell you exactly who's following you from a demographic standpoint, even, geographically, this is where they're at. Understand that, because, even if you just one time a month go in there and look at it, at least you get an idea who you're dealing with. I've done this over and over and over again to understand ages and genders and locations and all of that. We've talked many times about demographics and geographic locations, but there's some real value in there. Now, on the flip side of it, you can also go in there and start to look at how people are engaging with you. So who are the people that engage with you the most? The people that like and share and comment and all this.
Parents. For us, it's all parents.
For its
parents of the athletes.
Right. So, the parents have become the followers, the engaged ones on Facebook. And that makes perfect sense given the platform that you're on, right? So my kids are actually my son is on Facebook, but he doesn't post anything. Funny enough, we're not even connected on Facebook. But he's on there, but he doesn't do anything. But the parents are on Facebook all the time, right? So that's a platform. It's an older platform, right? Older demographic. But then you get some of the other platforms. So what I'm saying is, look at who's engaging with you the most. Understand the demographics and the geographics that they give you in the reporting. And then third, and probably the biggest thing, is to look at and see, are we generating real traffic? Because there's a ton of bots out there that will like things, right? You get those requests all the time. But there'll be these bots that are out there that will start to follow you. And if you realize that 80% of your following is bots, that's not a good thing either, right? Something's not working. And, just because you have all these bots on there doesn't mean I've got these nothing. Followers. Yeah, I've got these followers. Well, no, they're not really followers. They're kind of just computers that have found you. And that's not a success.
I'm going to have to move the professor along here. In this audit, you don't just look at what you're doing as the business owner. You don't just look at who your audience is. You got to look down the street at the other guy putting the shingle out there. Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think your competitors, again, we always talk about how digital has allowed you to see what your competition is doing. So go out there, look at what your competitors are posting, what their goals are, right? What's the link that they're driving back to? Well, what's the engagement that they're getting? Who are the customers that they have, right? So you can go in there and you can see all of these things, and maybe you'll start to find people that you're like, that person should follow me, right? Reach out to them. I know it's a little creepy, but you can do that. And there's a variety of ways that we can invite people to follow us as well. And I don't necessarily want to get into that today, but from a competitor standpoint, if you don't have 1, 2, 3 competitors that you're constantly looking at just to see what they're doing, you're not learning. You're just stagnant, right? So learn what they're doing, see how you can position yourself, but maybe they'll teach you a thing or two. Maybe they're getting a whole lot of engagement and they're doing different types of posts than you are. Maybe you should learn from that.
So in the 7th step here, we're talking about, all right, how do you bring it all together? What tools are out there to basically put it all together for you so you can maybe cut a little time off of this?
I'm going to tell you, just make a simple Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet and just start tracking some of this stuff, right? So if you, at the first of the month, if you track how many followers you have, how many engagements you have, what's your best performing content that's been put out there, right? So just create something that you can measure and you'll start to see, right? Because you don't necessarily get this nice little pretty graph that shows you how much you've grown or who's fallen off or anything like that, right? So you can go as detailed as these people were following me with all of their names in a file, and then at the end of the month, let me compare and see if they're still here. I mean, it depends on how detailed you want to go, but from a basic level, I would literally just say, track your progress, right? How many people have are following us this month? How many people have engaged with us? What's our average engagement per post? It goes back to the traffic that we talk about when in a store, where number of people that walk through a door, number of people that buy from us, and then what's the average order value. It's the same idea here, right? It's a number of people that follow us. It's a number of people that engage with us, right? Like, just track it. Because in the end, what we're saying is, if you're not seeing growth, there's something wrong, right? Does it really make sense to continue going if you're not seeing growth? You're putting a ton of effort into it.
And ultimately, you do the audit, and you got to come up, all right, you got to react to what you're seeing. How do you create an action plan?
Yeah, so again, you do all of these different things, you put them all into play, but go through, and we'll put the steps in the show notes, but the idea really is just develop a plan, what you want to do, act on it, track it, measure it, and then just don't set it and forget it. I think that's the biggest thing. We try so hard for things that we can just set and forget, but and especially from a small business, the number one thing they want to talk about is social, and they want to work on it, but then they forget about it. So if you're going to work in social, you've really got to monitor it and put some real effort into it. It's not like advertising where you turn it off and it goes from there, or turn it on and turn it off. But from an own perspective, the information that you're putting into social, track it, utilize it. It's providing you all kinds of feedback, and most people just ignore it.
The 8-step Matt Hansen audit is in the show notes. Please, if you like what you hear, we're live on the radio and TV today. You may not have ever heard us. Please go to Apple, Spotify, and I know that Matt has us in so many different locations. Get in. Join the community. It's cool to market. It's cool to try to do it as cheaply as you can digitally. And sometimes we talk about traditional media. So thank you. Many people are finding us in all around the country and in other areas. Tell your friends.
Sounds good.
Till next time, we'll see you later.
The Mastering Local Marketing podcast helps local small business owners like you understand what it takes to successfully market your business and drive new customers through your doors. We provide actionable insights, interview leading experts and business owners in various industries, as well as provide tips and tricks we've uncovered over the last 25 years in the field. Whether you're starting your business or you've been at it for decades, let us provide you with the education and resources you need to grow your customer base. It's time to start mastering your local marketing.
Fall is all about cozy comforts, and with Hero Bread, you can enjoy all your favorites and still hit your health goals. From breakfast bagels and meal-prepped enchiladas to mouth-watering burgers and cheesy noodles. You won't believe Hero Bread's options have 0 to 5 grams net carbs and are high fiber from the taste and texture. And right now, Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code FALL25 at checkout. That's FALL25 at hero.co. All figures are per serving of Hero Bread. Contains 2 to 18 grams of fat per serving. See the product nutrition panels on hero.co for more information.